Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Velo podcast. My name is Mike Levy, and today you and I are going to learn all about Campagnolo's just released Super Record 13 drivetrain. 13 stands for 13 cogs and 2 chainrings as well as 2 thumb levers, which we're going to talk about. So Velo's own Josh Ross has put a bunch of miles on this new Campy group. So I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions over the next hour about how it performs, why Super Record 13 was released a bit earlier than maybe we expected it, and what it feels like compared to Shimano's Dura-Ace and SRAM's Red. Josh, I want to start with a slightly different question before we get into how the new group works. A lot of us choose one drivetrain brand and then we sort of like unapologetically look past its fault. I think this is especially true these days when investing in a drivetrain, it's like it kind of feels like paying a huge dowry for like a lifelong marriage type commitment. These things are so expensive, once you invest in a drivetrain. So one of the questions that I have for you is electronic drivetrains, SRAM, Shimano, Campagnolo, they all kind of do the same thing. You push the little button, it goes like, and some people argue that maybe there's less like connection there between the rider and the bike. And without getting into like actually how Super Record 13 performs, I just want to start off with, does Campagnolo have a different feel to its electronic Super Record 13 drivetrain versus Shimano and SRAMs? Like, is there any sort of better connection there? Do you know what I mean?
It's tricky. I don't know about like connection or not connection, but there is a little like it's so subtle is the reality. But there is little if you ride all 3 group sets, there are little differences. Shimano, it just feels the smoothest. It is the most likely to have shifted, and you're like, wait, did I actually shift? It maybe feels easier or it doesn't, but you're
Like butter.
Yeah, like butter.
Yeah.
And Shimano or SRAM and Campy will both exhibit that sometimes, but they also both are a little more likely to sort of bang into gear. They don't like grind or anything. Like they're still incredibly smooth. It's not a performance thing. It's just like, yeah, I know that it shifted. Now the thing, and I say this in the review, with Campy, it almost is reassuring when it happens because like that's your sense memory of Campy is like absolutely just banging into gears with the thumb shifter. And so
Yeah.
when it happens, which is not all the time, but when it happens on the electronic group set, you're like, ah, cool, that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it definitely shifted. Ka-chong.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so before we get into this, someone from the last podcast said we rambled on a bit, Josh. So we're going to try to run a tighter ship during this episode since there's so much stuff to cover. So in the first half of the podcast, we're going to stick on the specs, the details, and the design and all that kind of stuff. And in the second half, that's when we're going to get into actual ride comparisons and how this new stuff shifts, because it is definitely a lot different than the previous Super Record. And that's actually a good place to begin. You start your review that's on the Velo homepage right now. Everybody that's listening, go read it. You start that review with this sentence. I took Campagnolo's Super Record 13 on a 150-mile ride over a mountain, and it's everything I asked for at a lower price. So my first question should be actually, it's 2 questions. One is, how the heck does it cost less? There's another cog, and it costs less, which I think is like a big talking point here. And also, why did this group come out sooner than we expected it?
So the previous group set was not well received. And part of that, honestly, I think, was that it was $1,000 more than anybody else. And so when you go chart, when you're already talking in the top of the top, like expensive group sets. And when you come out with a product that is then goes, that's 20% over the top of everyone else, you better deliver 20% better performance. And if there's even the slightest misstep, then people are questioning it. And yeah, there were some missteps. There was no thumb shifter. There was some reports of the shifting not being so smooth or direct. And they, mea culpa. They came out with a new group set. They answered the questions.
So they basically jumped ahead in the product cycle because the previous super record was so bad or so not good.
I mean, I can't say for sure exactly the decision-making process of like, hey, we're gonna get this out soon, but it certainly seems like they were willing to push something new as soon as they had it.
Yeah. And it sounds like a part of that reasoning, not that we know, we're just making wild assumptions here, which is half the fun. But part of the reasoning might be pricing. And like when I read that it was less expensive, like I feel like I'm on candid camera, like I'm being pranked. Like, wait, what? It's better and it's less expensive. Like, wait, this is the bike industry, which
Right.
is crazy, right? It's got another cog and it costs less.
I mean, this is the crazy thing about this group set is that you go, I talk to people and they're like, well, what about this or what about that? I mean, we'll talk about the details later, but you have to step back for a second and you go, okay, it is significantly less expensive and it adds features. Like what right there, unless the thing like catches on fire, you kind of go, that's a win.
Why is it less expensive? When you asked Mr. Campy, what did they tell you?
They did not tell me.
Oh,
They did
interesting.
not
Okay.
explain it being less expensive. I think if I'm going to make wild assumptions, I think that they got more efficient in their
Yes.
processes.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think, and this is meant to be, there's some definite talk about this, is that this is going to be a platform. There are going to be other pieces to it going forward. And so I think there's some economies of scale here, and they've
Yep.
found ways to make it easier, cheaper.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So new hoods, new derailleur, bunch of new stuff. The first thing we're going to talk about, though, when we get into these details, it's the first 2x13 drivetrain on the market, which seems excessive. We're going to be at. I mean, eventually we're gonna end up with as many gears as we used to had when we had triples, aren't we?
Yeah, we're right there.
So
3x9, right?
yeah.
And now
What?
we're 2x13.
Right.
We're one gear short.
So what does that do for the rider? Why do we need that many gears? And tell me about the gearing options as well.
So there are a bunch of gearing options. There are 7 chainring options, 4 cassettes. You can start with a 10 tooth or an 11 tooth on the rear cassette. Honestly, I didn't dive so much into it because it's a little bit overwhelming. And so I was like, okay, I spoke with them. We talked about options that I was going to test. And I ended up with a 5236 with an 11 to 36 cassette.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the really fascinating thing about the whole thing. Why did we get away from triples? Well, we got away from triples, and Grandpa, whoever will tell you that triples are amazing, and they are in a way, except that changing the front chainring is not optimal for fast riding, basically. If you're like cruising, especially like a loaded bike and you just want gears, yeah, triples are fine. But if you want the best performance, the front chainring is just a thing that it slows you down. You have to think about where you are. It just like whatever.
Can I counterpoint that? Shimano would
Sure.
disagree with you. We both like you shift a Shimano front derailleur. Man, is it good? Like bang. Like there's no hold up. You barely have to ease up on power. You know what I mean? Like front shifting can be really good, is my point.
Front shifting can be really good. I'm not saying, I apologize. I wasn't saying it can't be really good. What I'm saying is that it's always a thing where
Yeah.
if you could, and that's why if you have one buy, you just never think about it. If it's SRAM, like we'll use SRAM as an example, and you go, okay, easy, hard. Those are 2 different hands. That's it. Doesn't matter what is happening. Doesn't matter how intense your sprint is, how steep the hill is, whatever. Easy, hard. That's simpler than like, okay, am I cross chaining? Am I like, where am I? What's happening? Like, yeah, you can get good performance, but if you can avoid the front, it's just simpler. And that's what really happens with 2x13 is that you avoid changing the front chainring. You spend more time in the big chainring because you have a wider range in a single chainring. And this was what SRAM tried to do with their X range gearing, right? Smaller cassette, you start with the 10 tooth, smaller chain rings. So you spend, and they do to a certain extent. Campy does it even better.
I see. Okay. And I imagine with 13 cogs, another bonus would be smaller jumps between those cogs.
Yes. So I looked at it, and both SRAM and Campy have 6 one-tooth jumps at the bottom of the cassette.
Mhm.
So there's not really, I mean, it's like, there's not truly an advantage there, at least in the gearing that I'm running, because you can get that with SRAM. But then at the top, remember, it's a 52-36 with an 11-36. Now, most race bikes that I'm testing these days, in fact, I put this on a Scott Addict RC, and it originally came with Shimano Dura-Ace or Dura-Ace. What am I saying?
Dura-Ace.
And that would have been a 52-36 with an 11-34, right? That's very common. It's this like semi-compact. It's like modern race gearing, even though
Yeah.
older, it used to be bigger. Well, now you've got the same gearing, but you add one more gear at the top of the cassette. That's basically what this ends up being.
Okay. Same free hub. What about the chain? Is there a new chain?
There
Eckhart
is a new
I
chain,
imagine.
but it appears not to be different than their existing. It's like lighter, and because Campy had 1x13, and
Yeah.
so the chain is the same. It just they're using this black chrome coating on everything, and it looks different, and it's lighter, I think, for the Super Record version.
You know what I like about the black chains is that even when they're a little dirty, you can't really tell.
It's true.
The drivetrain looks cleaner.
I do try to use wax, as we have discussed in the past, but usually what happens is that bikes come to me with grease on them. I ride them until I'm annoyed with that, and then I eventually get around to that first wax.
Yeah, yeah. The cassette, I assume it's a one-piece cassette similar to the other 13-speed cassette options they have?
It is not a one-piece cassette as
Oh,
far. Well, so I actually didn't take that cassette apart when
okay.
I was doing the initial testing, and I was like, it looks like one piece to me, but there are I don't think it is.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about the derailleur, which is completely new, and it's got like a sort of neat organic look to it here. A lot of carbon. Is that what I'm seeing there? Like a sort of
Yeah.
unidirectional matte carbon body pieces and much lower profile than the previous version as well.
Yes, there is tons of carbon. This thing is gorgeous to look at. It's sort of a how do I describe this thing? It is like there's an industrial nature to it. But it's beautiful, and it's light, and yeah. And I love this is a silly little detail, but on the back of the lower pulley, there is a Campy logo in the carbon, which is not super easy to see. Like, you have to look through the wheel, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, if they didn't put it there, you would never miss it. But I love that they added it. I just love those little cool details.
Where's the battery on this thing? I'm looking at it and I don't see a battery, Josh.
Yeah, so for the rear derailleur, the battery is really tucked up, and I want to look at the picture so I can. The battery is really tucked up towards the wheel, and it's almost a little bit difficult to find the charging port. And the batteries on this group set they are like SRAM. They are outside the frame. They attach to each derailleur. However, that's where the mistake that I myself made, and other people I think will make, is that you think, oh, SRAM does it, Campy does it, it's the same. You take them off and you charge them. Except that you don't really. You can take them off, but one, the seals, the water seals on them are so tight. I actually
Oh.
had a panic moment the night before that first big ride where I took it out to charge it, and
Yeah.
I could not get it back in. I talked to Campy, and they said that will wear in over time. It'll get a little bit easier. But there's not really like a good reason to remove them, because the battery's charged with a magnetic port on the bike or off the bike. Like the port's on the battery, so it just doesn't matter. It's not like SRAM where you have to take it off and put it in a charger. You just attach it there.
Interesting. Okay. I have a power meter that charges via a magnetic connection. And one issue that I have with it is that the magnet's not very strong. And if there's even like a tiny bit of dirt between the magnet and the connection, or, dirt I can't even see, that it won't stick and I have to jiggle it around. Have you had any issues at all with the connection, or does it works just
I
fine?
have not had issues.
Long
It is
cord?
fine. So there's a weird thing that each of the charging cables is just a USB on the end. And
Yeah.
then Campy gives you like this block if you want to plug them all in at the same time and charge everything. The weird thing is, and it's just such a weird thing. They don't give you the cord that goes from the block to the outlet.
Oh,
And it's
that's
not
weird.
clear. Yeah, it's weird. And it's not clear to it's not obvious to go buy this thing either. Although you can buy it, but it's actually just the same cord that an Xbox uses. So
Okay.
I bought one for $5 on Amazon, but it's just, I'm like, really? You don't just
Yeah.
include that? But you just plug them into, you plug the cords into any USB charger and they work. The cords themselves, that piece of it, are not all that long. I bought a 5-foot cord to go to the block, and then I plugged them into the block, and everything charges at the same time.
Yeah. Little usability things that I've got a few different electronic drivetrains and power meters and things on the go. And these daily life things are becoming much more noticeable as I'm using different stuff. The derailleur itself, is it the same derailleur for all of the cassettes? Like if I bought the smallest cassette and then a year down the road, I wanted to buy the biggest cassette, do I use the same derailleur? Because that's not the
do.
case. Okay, good.
Same derailleur throughout, and it's also worth noting that there is this link. There's this, I don't know how to describe it. There's this thing that goes from the derailleur to the hanger, and it's just this little metal. It almost looks like another hanger, right? And depending on whether you use that or not, you can also there are options. You can mount to UDH, you can mount to Shimano direct mount, and you can mount to a standard hanger. And you use the link or you don't, or you use different hangers, but it's all the same derailleur.
Oh, I could put this on my gravel bike.
And they may have considered that.
Yeah, of course. Back to batteries for a second. I read in your review 750 kilometer range. Pretty decent. 45 minutes to 90% though.
Yeah, it charges fast.
That's good. That's impressive.
Yeah. That is so with electronic drivetrains in general, I have found, okay, well, a little bit of a tangent here, everybody, forgive us. But okay, if somebody's on a group ride and their battery dies, 100% it's Shimano. No, it is always Shimano because you have to plug in the bike. Yeah, because you have to plug in the bike. So you get home and you're tired and you saw the warning on your computer and you're like, oh, I'll deal with it later. And then you forget.
Yeah.
But in general, usually this will come up after the winter. You haven't touched a bike for a while. It's been sitting somewhere. You go to that first spring ride. You're super excited. You pull it out and damn, battery's dead. So yeah, just a really fast charge time. While you're getting ready, having breakfast, whatever, you can get it charged up.
Yeah. Given the 750 kilometer estimated range, this question probably isn't applicable. When I do some big rides or multi-day rides, I'll often bring a spare SRAM battery with me. Could you bring a spare Campy battery with you? Are they available separately? Do we know how much they cost? How does that work?
I don't know how much they cost, but they are available separately. You can bring them. However, unlike SRAM, now this is because SRAM has the patent for this, but unlike SRAM, you need 2 batteries. You cannot swap them back and forth. So there's a separate battery for the front and a separate battery for the rear. Yeah.
Okay. I understand, I think from an optimization point of view, that probably makes a lot of sense, but I also will say that is a good thing to point out. That's a bit of a bummer. Small tangent. That one guy from the YouTube comments is gonna hate us on this episode. Yesterday's bike ride, I'm riding down a gravel road by the university here in Squamish, and I look down and I see an Axis battery on the ground. So I pick it up. And I'm like, oh, that's a good find. I'm making money on this ride. I ride another 100 feet. There's another Axis battery on the ground. So I pick it up. On this ride yesterday, I found 2 Axis batteries, brought them home, charged them up. They appear to be perfectly fine. They retail for $87 each Canadian, which is, I don't know how much American.
Yeah, that's a lot of money there.
Yeah, so like I basically made like $170 on this ride because somebody's Axis batteries either fell out of their bag or maybe fell off their bike or something like that. Anyways, I thought that was a good ride. These batteries on the Campy
That's
stuff,
the end of
obviously.
the story.
That's it, everybody.
I have some bad news for you on the prices of these batteries.
Oh, yes. Give it to me.
Let's see here. I am seeing, now this is not, I should warn everybody, this is not deeply researched, but just a very quick search. I am seeing a rear derailleur. Oh no, this looks like both. Campy Super Record, front and rear. Yes, $420.
Holy shit! $420 for 2 batteries?
Yes, so $200 a battery.
My man,
that's from Performance Bike, which is like a name US retailer. Like you could probably find them cheaper, but this is like, name brand, easy retailer. You're spending a bunch of money, and I try not to be like, oh, you could get this like super expensive things from some weird website you never heard of.
Yeah.
This is like reasonable website, $419 for both batteries.
Okay, that is not acceptable. Because they're like marginally larger than an Axis battery, I assume. I'm looking at the trailer here; they're quite small. So, wow, that's something to definitely make people aware of. And again, like 750-kilometer range. You probably don't need an extra battery, but I would like to have one. And if they were like $100 each, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I could do it. But 200 each, over 200 each, that's not acceptable. I don't think.
Yeah, that's pricey. I'm not gonna lie. Let's see. I was trying to find. I had figured out how much battery. I had figured out how much battery I had used on that 150-mile ride. It was about 10 hours, and I want to say a little less than 20%.
Okay. Actually, that brings me to a good question. There's an app that goes along with this group, I assume, and that's where you're getting this information from, your battery level stuff. Does that
actually wait? Before you finish that question, I want to be more exact, which is I see that 10 hours of riding and 1,900 rear shifts took 12% of battery from the rear mech. And I shifted on that same ride. I shifted 69 front shifts. And
69, sweet.
Yes. And that reported 0% use battery. Like it's still 100% after that.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. Is the app easy to use? Does it have any setup features like trim features or anything like that?
So I love the app. And the app for a long time, the Campy app has been really nice. Like it looks really nice. All the usability is really good. Now it's not as good as SRAM, mostly because SRAM offers this thing that I don't know how many people use it, honestly. And even SRAM, when I've been at their headquarters, and like I actually once explained it better than their JP, who's their road and gravel like head guy, and he was like, there's this thing, and I'm like, no, let me tell you how great this thing is. And what it is that it shows you exactly when you shifted on a map, and then your average power in like certain gears, and you can break. It is like crazy breakdown. Campy doesn't have that. Now, meanwhile, on the other side, Shimano, their app is like, when you enter the app, you then can't shift the bike on the levers. And then you have to do like, it's so goofy. The whole setup it's just very bad usability. Now, Campy is kind of in the middle. Their app is beautiful. It is a pleasure to use. But if you want to do trim, if you're micro adjusting, things like that, you hold down a button and then like on the derailleur, and then you use the shift buttons. It's all very, I don't want to say manual because it's still electronic, but like there's a manualness to it, and it's fine. I imagine some people would like that. However, I love being able to see, like for that, I could write down like for that set of wheels, I need to go -5 in the rear mac to make it happy. And you can't see that on Campy. You just have to do it.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk about the hoods, shifters. The hood shape is completely new. Big news. Tell me about thumb levers.
Yeah, so the big thing with the lever shape, they say it's completely new, and I guess it is, but it's not like drastically different. There are some differences in it, but it basically feels like Campy. But the big thing on the last one was that the thumb shifters disappeared.
Yeah.
Now, I have heard that part of the reason for that was that they were getting broken all the time in shipping and just in use, and that they were exposed, and it was a problem. So they got rid of the thumb shifters, and then people were like, what? Like,
why would I buy Campy?
Right, like that is the thing. You have the thumb shifter. So the new thumb shifters, they're back. They're very tucked in. They're very streamlined. They are still very easy to use, but you don't have the same usability from any position.
Yeah. I would imagine that the fact that it's electronic means the lever itself, obviously it doesn't have to be a lever anymore. So it doesn't have to stick out as much and maybe be as vulnerable. Now it can be a little button and they can put it wherever they want. So that's probably part of the reason why it's back anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think I feel like they just didn't comprehend. Like, I don't feel like they understood the emotional connection to that thumb lever. And they were like, oh, well, we can do it better. We can just get rid of that and we can use a button. And then people were like, no, but that's Campy. Why would you? Why?
Yeah. You could reach the thumb lever from the places and it's reasonable and ergonomic and feels good.
Well, here's the thing about that. So it's not like terrible. It's just it's more of a difference than
it's as good as it always was then.
It's like, okay, SRAM with Red was like, or with the new generation of their group sets, they said, okay, nobody really rides on the drops anymore. Everyone rides on the hoods. We're going to design a system so that it's super comfortable and it makes a lot of sense from the hoods, and it does, and it's amazing. And Campy, being Campy, they were like, no, people still ride on the drops and the hoods, whatever. We want it all the positions. We're a racing company. Like, I imagine this. I'm making this conversation up, but we're a racing company. People get down on the hoods, right? So when you get down people get down in the drops. When you get down in the drops, the levers are exactly where you want them. I actually use the drops way more on the Campy group set. So you get down, you can rest your thumb on the thumb shifter, like it's just perfect. And you can reach out with your with one finger and you can rest it on the paddle shifter, and then your middle finger can grab the ergo power. There's that curve in their brake lever, and you can just grab it and you can just sit there, and it is sublime.
Okay, so that is different from my memory. I used to have a chorus group on a giant MCR, which is quite the combination.
I know that. I had the MCR briefly.
yeah, that's all you needed it for. It didn't need to have it long. And I remember reaching up to grab that thumb lever, and it was like I think it had 1.5 inches of travel, Josh. You know what I mean? Like, ka-gunk. This is more button-like, I assume.
Yeah. No, there's not really much travel. It's just this thing that is really easy to push. All of the buttons work amazing. But here's
even the bonus button.
Well, so here's the thing about that bonus button. The bonus button does work amazingly well, but it's not really a bonus button. Campy calls it a bonus button, but if you were to use that button not for shifting, which you could do, it used to be people used Shimano buttons for changing the computer because that's how they come from the factory. That used to be much more common. Now, SRAM comes from the factory with the button programmed for shifting, so people leave things the way they are, even though you can adjust it. But with Campy, if you were to use that bonus button not to shift, you would find yourself having a hard time shifting from the hoods because you have to sort of move your hands back a little bit to reach the thumb lever. And I often sit with my hand, at the curve where it goes from the drop into the tops. And if you're there, it's no problem. But if you're actually holding the main part of the tops and the controls, then you can't really reach that button. So then, under your thumb, now it is perfectly positioned, under your thumb, you have this bonus button that also does the same thing as the thumb button. The only thing is, it's a little bit small and it doesn't have texture. So I find myself going like, wait, it's right there? Now, I think I will get used to this over time, but it's not as intuitive as the thumb button, and
It
I
looks
don't
like
know.
a little pimple on the inside of your hood.
Yeah, it's just a little button. It
Yeah.
works perfectly fine. It's not like terrible. It's gonna take some getting used to
Yeah.
really feel comfortable with always knowing right where that button is.
And I assume you can configure all of these levers and buttons to shift anything on the bike.
Yeah, you can do anything you want.
Of
with it.
course. Yeah.
The way
Yeah.
it comes set up is that your paddle shifter goes up the gears. So
Yep.
on the chainring, that makes it harder. On the cassette, that makes it easier. And then the other two buttons go down. So, opposite. And that's the
Yeah.
same as Shimano does it. I have seen people on in Instagram reels and things that feel a little bit confused about that up and down thing because it is it does different things on different hands, but whatever.
Yeah.
That's how bikes have
Yeah.
been.
I have one more question about shifting, and it has to do with satellite shifters. My absolute favorite little feature on one of my personal bikes is I have the shifters, these satellite shifters mounted under the tops, but they're mounted backwards. So my knees don't hit them because of the gravel here, like sometimes your wheels. Anyways, so my knees don't
Yeah.
hit them. So I could just set it up how I want to set it up. Do I have the option to do something like that with Campy? Are there any satellite shifting options?
There are currently no satellite shifters. I have heard some rumblings that maybe it's coming, but no, there's nothing.
Look at this, Josh. I know this is old news, but like these things on the end of my little arrow bars.
Yeah, it's genius. It's great.
I need those to be happy. Okay, so it is coming, maybe.
Maybe. I can't quote
Okay.
that, but I have heard some rumblings out there that maybe. But okay, let's forget about arrow bars for a minute. So at first I was like, oh, well, satellite shifters would solve all this, right? But then I was like, okay, what would realistically, without arrow bars, we've already got 3 buttons per side. Are we going to add 4 buttons per side and we'll just have buttons everywhere to do all the things? I'm not sure that's not totally necessary.
Well, I think having not used the group, so I don't really have an opinion, but I might guess that I might be okay with losing the pimple button, the pimple shifter on the inside, and instead having a satellite shifter that I could put wherever I want to put it. Like, yeah, you're right. I don't need 4 ways to shift.
Where would you put it? Because what you need is when you're on the tops, you need something out far to be able to shift.
No, if I'm on the tops, I want it under the tops. Like I'm holding onto the tops so I can reach underneath.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry.
Either with my thumb or my fingers.
Yeah, no, I meant the hoods. I apologize. I meant when you're out on the hoods, you want something out far. Because right now there's a button. If we ignore the pimple button, there's a button that's closer to the handlebar, but you can't quite reach it. So you need something out far, and that's where the pimple button comes in. You could, if you had, let's just pretend that you had a blip shifter like SRAM, like it's that same shape because we both know that.
Yeah.
You could solve that problem with that, except where would you actually put it to solve that problem?
Yeah, I mean,
you would maybe stick it on the outside of the thing, but it would be weird. That would that would solve the problem, but it wouldn't be elegant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have that pimple button on my SRAM shifters, and I don't miss it. I just have a satellite. That's all.
Yeah.
And it's fine because when I'm on the hoods, I'd shift because it's electronic. You just shift with your pinky fingers.
Well, right. And so that's the thing about SRAM, and I guess Shimano too, is from the hoods, you can easily reach the main buttons.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Campy group set, you really can't reach the down button. So they have
Oh.
provided two. That's the whole thing. You can't. The thumb
Okay,
shifter.
I see.
Yeah.
I see
Your
what
thumb
okay, I
shifter,
see.
you have to move your hands.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Good. More stuff to know. Good to know.
And it
let's
all
talk
works. It's just they really you
Yeah.
can clearly see Campy's like, just get down on the drops. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone has their buttons in a different place. And at the end of the day, they all work pretty good. It's just preferences. Yeah. Lastly, before we get into performance, we have to talk about weight. There's a lot of numbers here. Josh, what I don't want is to hear, oh, this with this, but this has this, and this was. Can you break it down simple for me? Super Record versus Dura-Ace versus Red. What are the weight differences?
We need like Red Ace or Red. We need like anyway, or we just Red is just unapologetically American. It's just
yeah,
red.
exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so the way that I like to run a 1-to-1 on road bikes, and I like fairly small chain rings to make that all happen. And so essentially, you can think about what I generally run is a compact in front. Now, Red has their own thing, but it's, a compact in front and then a 1-to-1 out back. So with that, gearing, all three group sets, I think that's a simple way to say, they're all about the same gearing. And Campy is not the lightest in that configuration. In fact, let's see, Dura-Ace is ever so slightly the lightest in that configuration, and SRAM, but that's without a power meter, and SRAM, their power meter weighs like nothing, it's like 30 grams, but if you were to take that power meter away, they would probably technically be lighter than Dura-Ace.
So many asterisks here. Just give me some weight totals. Give me the 3 weight totals.
Okay, so in my gearing configuration, the Campy setup is 2560.6. The SRAM Red setup is 2485 grams, and the Dura-Ace is 2471 at the lightest.
Okay. Isn't that funny? Like, it's less than 100 grams difference.
Yeah.
And all these groups, different parts of the world, developed by different countries. They use different materials to do different things. They're designed completely differently. At the end of the day, there's less than well under 100 grams between these 3 top-tier drivetrains.
Yeah, it's almost like they benchmark the other group sets and then...
It's almost like... I don't think anybody is using a weight number to decide what drivetrain they're going with anymore. Anyway.
I mean, I'm torn on that. There are, weight weenies for
Josh,
them.
it's 80 grams.
I don't think it matters. I think there are still people that are interested in just doing the lightest for the point of doing the lightest. And I guess the lead up here is that I do want to give Campy credit that you have the option of being the lightest. You would have to go no power meter, the smallest cassette option, and the smallest chainring option. And
SRM power meter, we should mention as well, too.
Yes, it is an SRM power meter. There's some discussion about whether it was, but I did check, because I didn't want to be like, it looks an awfully like, but SRM had told me at one point that it was SRM. I checked with Campy. They were fine to be like, yes, it's SRM. And I think that matters to a certain extent. Because you go, well, what do we care about power meters? Does any of them matter? Are they accurate? Are they not? Well, if anyone is going to believe that one is the utmost, the most accurate, I feel like you have to give that to SRM. Now, does that actually matter? I'm not so sure, but
I don't care about accuracy. I want consistency. I don't care if it says I'm 5 watts lower, as long as it says I'm 5 watts lower every single ride. Preferably 5 watts higher, to be honest. But you know what I mean? I just want that consistency.
That is totally true, but you also don't want it. If it was 100 watts off, or let's say that's ridiculous. Let's say it's 20 watts off, and you had one power meter that was absolutely consistent, but it was 20 watts off, that would still be a problem.
Josh, I know it's a problem for a fact because the power meter on my Giant reads like about 10 watts lower than all my other power meters.
Yeah.
And I did a road ride to Baker last weekend or maybe the weekend before. And like mentally, I was looking down and I was struggling so much, like pedaling up this hill and being like, what is wrong with me? I needed to remind myself that the number was a bit lower. Anyways, let's talk about how it works. There's a lot of details there. On the road, what is the shifting like? Is it more like Shimano? Is it more like SRAM? Is it fast? Is it slow? Describe the shifting for me.
Here's the thing about the shifting is that people push me on this all the time, and they go, "Well, what is
It's my job."
Yeah, but I'm like, what do you want me to say? They all work really well. So what's better than best? I don't know.
Hold on. What about if I asked it like this? You are pedaling up a short steep hill. You are shifting under load, rear, to an easier gear. What is that shift like versus Shimano?
Shimano might be ever so slightly smoother, but you would never notice unless you had the option of riding one fairly close back to back.
Which says a hell of a lot for Super Record 13, doesn't it? That's my point. The fact that it matches that stuff is something to really, really underline.
Yes, this is all we have. The big takeaway from this review, I think, is that we have gone back to the point where pick what works for you, what you think is cooler for whatever reason, and the performance is there throughout all of them.
What is the front shifting like?
Yeah, it's smooth. But this is, again, I'm going to push back. We'll get some comments on this. People go, SRAM front shifting sucks. And I'm like, have you used, we're not talking mechanical, what is it? What was it? Red 22. Like, those years are long gone.
It's going to haunt them for a long time.
Yes. But these group sets shift like butter. And SRAM, this is Grandpa Simpson again. I am 100% sure I've told this story before, but I told SRAM at one point at Sea Otter, I was like, this other thing I was referring to classified. I'm like, you can cross chain because there's no cross chaining. And they were like, okay, old man, you can cross chain our stuff too. Like, just go for it. It works fine. Like,
yeah. And you could cross chain Super Record too. And it's fine. Yeah. I assume.
It's all fine.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean I think people should cross-chain, but yeah.
Yeah. What about the noise?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's quiet and smooth. These are all again, this is if it's making noise, which I will admit that my group set actually is making a little bit of noise right now, but it is because it came to me with grease. I have now ridden a good bit of distance on this, and it needs either wax or new grease. But it's quiet.
Mechanical noise, like tick, 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 those weird little things? Nothing like that.
Come on. None of that. But you're not going to get that on Dura-Ace or Red either. Let's be real here. These things are, and to be fair, you better freaking not when it's a $5,000 thing.
Yeah.
So,
what does the shift sound like? Not the chain going over the cogs. When I ride with somebody who's got a Di2, whatever, a lot of times I hear, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But where SRAM a lot of times can be a bit quieter, can you hear this stuff shift? Is there any sort of robot noise to go along with it?
I think there is. It's a hard thing I'm like, wait, I'm trying to remember, but I think that Shimano's just the loudest, I think. Shimano has that robot noise. And I think that Campy is less than that. It was not something where I was like, oh, this is even noticeable in my riding impressions.
Yeah. Okay.
The big thing that was noticeable when we talk about all of this, performance and noise and all of these things, and we touched on this in the beginning, is that there are certain situations where you can get it to do that campy bang into gear. And that's not a bad thing. It just is a thing.
What are those situations, Josh? Don't end there.
So if you're giving it good power, it's on downshifts when you're with high torque. So if you're sprinting and downshifting or something along that line, you can get it to really bang into gear.
Okay. Let's call it a positive shift feeling. Let's call it that instead.
I truly believe that, because when it happens, you're like, I'm like, how often did it happen in the old group sets? I'm like, what is my memory versus reality on those? Because to me, I remember it being like just always, and it's not always. But when it happens here, you're like, there it is.
Yeah. What happens when you get down pretty low on the battery? Are there LEDs anywhere on the or on the derailleur? Red lights, yellow lights, a siren, an air horn to tell you that you're getting low?
That is a good question. I did not run this battery down. You'll get a warning on the bike computer for sure. I believe
Okay.
there is a status light, so I believe that you'll get a status light there too.
Okay. Let's talk about braking then. The brakes aren't really new, are they? They feel
They're
the
not
same, but
really new.
the lever shape
Yeah.
is a little different. Does that help at all?
Yeah, so
The
SRAM showed SRAM brakes are not really new either.
Well, they are
They
new-ish.
are
Like
kind
they're
of.
a year old, but I think it's fair to say that SRAM and Shimano have both leveled up, especially SRAM, have both leveled up the brake game for sure in the drop bars. How do the Campy brakes compare?
So hang on, I'm gonna dwell on SRAM for just a second. Is
Mm,
that if you have SRAM Red, the last iteration, and then you add the new levers,
mhm.
I am told that you will get, not from SRAM, but I am told from people that you will get it. You can't tell the difference between the
Oh
new
yeah,
braking and the
100%.
old
I would
braking.
agree with
Yeah,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So the reason that I bring that up is because SRAM showed that you can adjust the levers, and now they also changed the master cylinder a little bit, but you can adjust things at the lever level and you can affect the brakes. And Campy, I think people would argue that Campy already had the best brakes before this latest SRAM.
Mm,
So now and I can say I went to Italy a few years ago. I did the Maratona, which is in the north of Italy. It is in the Dolomites. You just go the whole race. It's like a race, but it's it wasn't a race for me. But
no. Yeah.
the
I
entire
feel ya.
thing is up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain, and never once did those brakes make noise. They didn't nothing fade. And the bike brakes, they don't fade for me. But
Yeah.
sometimes you get those tings with the thermal expansion, and Campy brakes, nothing, silent and strong all the time. You still get that on this new group set.
Good power from the hoods, I think would be my main question
Right.
from the
So
top.
yes, the way the shape of that lever is, you can get good power from the tops, but it's not like SRAM because you are losing some mechanical advantage on those
Yeah.
levers, the way that they have it set up. So if you really want the absolute best performance, you need to go down to the drops, which is a little bit old school, I think,
Yeah.
because SRAM showed that that's just not necessary. Now, I will say that even from the tops, we both have ridden the Hope RX4 Plus, the Road Hope calipers, right?
Yep.
So you know how the initial bite on those is just that's the addictive
Yep.
thing about those brakes.
It's
I
firm
feel
and
like
it's out farther than
yeah,
stock.
and it's just like if you're going into a tight corner and you're like, oh shit, I misjudged this. You pull on those brakes and right away you feel better. And
Yeah.
I am getting that with Campy.
Okay. Well, one question or concern that you brought up in your review is that people with a SRAM group or Shimano group, like if I need an Axis battery, I can go to let's pretend you're the guy who lost his Axis batteries by the university yesterday. He's on a trip somewhere for Crankworks here, and he's got to go into a bike shop now, and get new batteries, and he's going to find them, especially here. They're everywhere. Even if you need a new Shimano battery for some reason, I don't know
I
why.
don't know
Like,
how you would. Maybe it's
your
broken.
bottom
Maybe it was
bracket
broken
fell
in
out.
shipping. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. But you could get those things. Okay, so I'm on a road trip. I've got my beautiful Super Record 13. What do you think the chances are of me finding a Super Record 13 battery out there?
Yeah. I would,
Or
even in a city
parts?
like Los Angeles, I think you would struggle. Like
Yeah.
biggest cities in America, I think you would struggle. And even like biggest cities in America, you walk into a Campy dealer.
Yeah.
I doubt they're going to have it in hand. And that's the big thing. When you're thinking about these group sets and you're going, well, what's the downside of Campy? And well, if you're talking performance, there's none. Like, why? What do you want them to give you? They cut the price and gave you extra gears, and it works flawlessly. Like, what could you possibly want more from them? But it's a thing to own it. And I tell this story in the review, but when I was getting this bike built, so first of all, Campy was like, we want to build it so that we know it is right. We don't want you testing something that's not right.
I don't like that.
I'm torn on that because my preference is to put when I test things, I want it to be in its best light. I don't want to I know there are some reviewers that take like road things and they put them off-road and they go, well, it doesn't work. And you go, well, it wasn't designed for that. Like, buy something else. Like, that's not what it's supposed to do. But I want them, so be it. I want the Campy setup to be as good as it is, like as good as it could be. And then I'm going to tell you, this is what it could be. Now, I am also going to be honest that they wanted to make sure that it was perfect. And that's part of the user experience. But even more than that, so they sent the bike back out. They wanted final setup at a local dealer, a Campy dealer. And so they get the Campy dealer gets the bike. The rear derailleur was broken in shipping. No big deal. They reach out to Campy. They order a new rear derailleur. Campy sends it out. And along the way, now I didn't actually realize this when I did all this, but the Scott Addict RC, it had a Shimano direct mount hanger. Yep. And that's to me, that's a little bit of an oddity for the hanger, but whatever, it's fine. Campy will work with that. But the local shop did not know that. They saw this long hanger. They saw that it was Shimano Direct, and they go, oh, well, this is a mistake. And they reach out to Scott. They order a new hanger, which then took forever because whatever, it just did. But this is a perfect example. If you walk into any shop with a decent mechanic, they know every trick of the trade for Shimano, right? That guy can tell you, Shimano says this doesn't work, but it does. And here's how it works, and this is what you need to do. And if they don't have something, first of all, they will probably have it, even for Dura-Ace. But if they don't, they might walk out to the showroom floor, pull something off a bike, hand it to you, and order the piece from Shimano. They know it'll be there right away. They're not worried about this at all. You're not going to get any of that with Campy.
Not so much.
None of that. The mechanics don't know how to work on it. Now, and what happened here in this shop, now not the mechanic himself, but other people, like salespeople in the shop, they were like, oh, that's just Campy. Campy is overly complicated. It doesn't work right. And no, nothing was wrong with the group set. There was just misunderstanding. And now this particular group set is brand new, but I've had a lot of Campy group sets. It's always been like that. I remember breaking a spoke in a wheel, and it was like this whole freaking process to get a Campy spoke. But it's always the thing, right? And so that's the big difference in the Campy owner experience. And maybe it's different in Italy, I don't know, but in the US, how many Super Record 13 group sets are there ever going to be in the US? Now, how many Dura-Aces are there going to be? Dura-Aces are there going to be?
Dura-Ace,
right?
Yeah.
It's
there's some parallels here. A couple episodes ago, we talked about the Campagnolo Y1 RS and how in some ways it was like an old Italian supercar, fast as hell, but there's some, some things, and not easy probably to deal with when you're in North America, when you need something or other from Campy. Maybe there's some parallels here, with the Super Record 13.
I'm going to push back on a little bit because I was complaining about, and I completely agree with your 80s supercar thing. The more time I've spent with that bike, the more I think about it, is that, but the thing about that was things like the paint is terrible. They have an awful outmount front, actual performance things and actual build quality issues. Whereas the Campy is in my testing, it is flawless in terms of build quality and the way things actually work. That is all top notch. But yeah, you're going to need a Ferrari dealer.
Yeah, that's where I was going. It's like
Yeah.
the window opener switch for my Testarossa. Like, I gotta get that thing from Italy. It's gonna take 3
Yeah.
months to get here, and it's $700. You know,
Yeah.
like possibly similar with the
That's
Super Record 13.
part where there's yes, absolutely. There are some parallels there.
Yeah. Okay. One last question here before we wrap this up. You got to go buy a new group. You've told me that they're all like, there's performance wise, they're all top notch. They all work the same.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me whether you'd go by Red, Dura-Ace, or Super Record 13, and tell me why.
Okay, this is so hard. I am going to run an article at this at some point, but here's the thing. Shimano came out with their group set is the oldest now, so it's falling a little bit behind. That's not a indictment of them as a company. It's not saying that their stuff is terrible. It's just like, it's the development cycle. The new one will come out. It'll be ahead of things again. For now, they're not ahead of things. So that leaves me with, do I want to go Red or do I want to go Campy? And my friend who I coined as Colnago superfan number 1, he said, you're Red superfan number 1. I don't think that's true necessarily, but there are things that I really love about Red. I love that you can just, the extra battery. Having those extra batteries, I have a few batteries around. If for some crazy reason my bike is dead, I just grab another battery. And I'm out the door and it doesn't matter. And so I do love that. But having spent time with both group sets, I have to say that the ride experience on the Campy group set, I actually prefer. I like having the 2x13, less shifting in the front, more gears. I like the additional hand positions because I think what has happened is that the hood's hand position is maybe not as optimal, but what happens with Red is that I basically never go on the drops. Well, now I'm I move around the whole time, and so maybe one position isn't as optimal, but they're all more usable. I really like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. There you have it. Josh is
wait,
gonna go.
before you go away, I do want to throw in one more thing about that choice is also there's a vibe thing here. If you show up on Trek or Specialized, the 2 biggest U.S. manufacturers, you show up on one of those bikes with Dura-Ace at a big group ride in the U.S., probably someone else has that exact same bike. Maybe a different color, maybe even the same color. You show up on a Scott Addict RC with Super Record, no one has that. There's a vibe to that.
That is an excellent point. Yeah, I think for when you have the money to spend, or you want to spend the money on this top tier stuff, I think for a lot of us that is a factor. I'm in a lot of cases I want something that's different, and I think more interesting would be the way to put it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'll pay.
Now there
premium.
is some trade-off there, which is that it is easier to have an S-Works with Dura-Ace. That is going to work flawlessly. It is an amazing setup. It's just a simple owner situation, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But if you want to be a little different, there you go.
All right. Okay. Let's end there, Josh. Thank you for the deep dive on the Super Record 13. It sounds like Campy has definitely made a couple, 2 or 3 steps forward, and it's on par with everything else now, not just performance-wise, but also cost-wise, which is also important. So everybody, thanks for listening to this deep dive on Super Record 13. Let us know what you think in the comments. You got to go tomorrow and purchase yourself a new high-end group. Is it Dura-Ace? Is it Red? Or is it Super Record 13? Let us know in the comments. And like always, please like and share this podcast. And we'll see you next episode. See you later.